Hey gamers, Gecko here. About 2 months ago now, you may remember that I made a video saying that ArcSys needs to do this thing better. Spoiler alert for that video, but the key thing that they needed to do was communication. Arc System Works has always been pretty bad when it comes to talking to us and discussing what their plans are for different franchises. A lot of the time as a player of ArcSys fighting games, it can be a complete guessing game on what could happen next. You remember the 6 months of complete silence we had between the Dizzy and Venom launch? I certainly do. I nearly lost my job because of it. Because of ArcSys' lack of communication, the community is kind of toughened up when it comes to trying to figure out what news is going to happen. A lot of speculation happens every single time we think a Guilty Gear update may be on the horizon. A lot of complete unknowns and guesswork has to be done because ArcSys refuses to even tease at what they're working on. However, recently, that has begun to change. As you know, we had the ArcSys showcase, which was a bit of a disaster, but we also had the Lucy panel, in which we got a lot of information about the future of Guilty Gear without being shown too much. And it seems like ArcSys were on the correct steps to communicating properly with their community. But it was just a first step. Back then, I said that ArcSys needed to continue this momentum if they wanted to win back community favor. And while I don't think this newest development has truly won everyone over, it is definitely a show of improvement from Arc System Works. ArcSys did an interview, like a full interview with a news outlet. Granted, the news outlet is Dexrotter, but you take what you can get. There are a lot of different things in this article, so today we're going to read through it, and we're going to have several stopping points where I explain the context behind the things that we're talking about, as well as speculate on what the future could be. If you like this kind of content and want to see more of it in the future, make sure to like and subscribe, and let's get into the article, shall we? So as you can see here, I am cutting off the title a little bit. Let me just scroll down so we can see that. We have an article called Guilty Gear's producer confirms that Strive is getting more big content after Season 4. This article was written by Virginia Glaze, and it was published last night, right before I went to bed. Thank you, ArcSys, for posting things at 11 o'clock at night. So let's read the article, shall we? We got to speak with Guilty Gear Strive producer Ken Miyauchi about the future of the fighting game. And he says something big is on the horizon that will shock players. Guilty Gear Strive first released in 2021, giving the fighting game community something to sink their teeth into during the pandemic. Arc System Works' gorgeous updated graphics and exciting new characters made Strive an instant hit with fans. It's been 4 years since then, leaving players wondering where the game is headed and what the roadmap for Strive looks like, given the current state of things at Arc System Works. For reference, the studio has begun branching out into different gaming genres, publishing titles like narrative-driven adventure Dear Me I Was, and isometric action game Demon and Baby! Demon and Baby mention! They even introduced Guilty Gear's first ever guest character Lucy from Cyberpunk Edgerunners in 2024. This talks as if she's out. Lucy obviously isn't out, but this is a pretty good synopsis of the current state of things. If you don't know, fighting games don't tend to last this long. Well, active development doesn't last this long. Normally a fighting game gets about 3 to 5 years of active development, maybe 2, maybe 1 if you're really unlucky, and then it's just kind of left to the community to do whatever they want with. Sometimes the community just continues to play it, sometimes the community makes mods in order to improve on the game, see something like MVC and Beyond. Sometimes it becomes a Discord fighter that about 5 people play and the majority of the community forgets about. But having a development cycle last over the 4 or 5 year mark generally is not a common thing. Generally, ArcSys' longer running fighting games like Dragon Ball FighterZ get to this point and slow down on development, with characters like Android 21 being the last character to come out for Dragon Ball, and then it getting a tradition of about 1 balance patch a year before the game completely ceased development. LabCoat 21 came out around 4 years after the release of Dragon Ball FighterZ. So you would kind of expect Guilty Gear to be slowing down now, but obviously the developer has said the exact opposite. The last time that the Strive community got a big surprise, it was Season 4, so I am a little bit worried on what this might be, but cautiously optimistic. Let's go with that. ArcSys is preparing something big for Guilty Gear Strive. Given that they're also developing Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls, it seems there's a lot going on at ArcSys right now. And according to Miyauchi, that includes exciting new updates for Strive. I can't talk too much about it, but we do have a plan. He told us at Anime Expo 2025. Some people may be thinking, well, Guilty Gear Strive will not have any more updates after the end of Season 4, because we still haven't announced anything yet. But that's actually not true. I can't say what our plans are, but I'm preparing something big and exciting that people probably won't expect. They won't know what we have in mind or what we're preparing, because we've recently announced a fighting game with a different IP, Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls, and a lot of Guilty Gear Strive players might be worried that the game is going to end. But that's actually not true, so don't worry about it. 5 more years! This is interesting. Maybe, and this is just a theory, so hold your horses, ArcSys is trying to find a way to make Guilty Gear Strive a forever game. If you don't know, the live service model of video games has given way to a bunch of different types of games, and one of them is generally considered a forever game. It's a game that you play with no real end in sight. The idea is that it is constantly updated every couple of weeks in order to keep players hooked and interested for as long as possible. Think games like League of Legends, Fortnite, Dead by Daylight. These games, while not always free, generally have an easy way to get into them. Maybe ArcSys is trying to find a way to make a forever fighting game. A Guilty Gear that is constantly iterated upon instead of making a new title for the series. Or maybe he means jam. Hell, maybe it's a sequel. Maybe it's Guilty Gear Strive 2. Guilty Gear Strive Rev, who knows? I think the fact that he says that no one will expect it means that we can do my favorite activity on this channel. Speculate wildly. I encourage you to go down in the comment section and say what you think this might be, because I'm very interested. Do you think it's skins? Do you think it's a title update? Do you think it's an entirely new game? Do you think it's a free version of Guilty Gear for people to play? I have no fucking idea. I am very interested to see where this goes, though. Strive producer wants different games with Guilty Gear IP. While Miyauchi wouldn't say anything more, he told us that he was keen on potentially breaking out into other genres of gaming with the Guilty Gear IP. However, given that ArcSys is currently undertaking a lot of new projects, he isn't certain when or if this will actually happen. It's unpredictable, he admitted. I don't know what's going to happen next, but one good thing that I'm possibly thinking is that... Thank you, alarm. It's unpredictable, he admitted. I don't know what's going to happen next, but one good thing that I'm possibly thinking is that since we're experts on making fighting games, but not particularly in any other genres like action or RPGs. About a year ago, we bought a company called Aquaria, a studio that makes RPG games. Because of that, we were able to expand our development environment, and now we're getting more people who have expertise in different fields. We're at the stage where we're trying to incorporate both expertise into something else, and try to see what we can do. Currently, I think Arc System Works is in a phase of running a lot of different trials, and once I think we're more confident, then we might be able to work on bigger projects, and that's something I'm really looking forward to. And as a Guilty Gear producer, I'm always looking forward to making Guilty Gear games in different genres. If you don't know who Aquaria is, I actually looked them up. They're seemingly the guys who made all of the SAO RPGs that came out on PlayStation and handhelds. I don't know shit about the SAO RPGs. I have heard decent things about them, but I'm also not a big SAO guy, so I don't know. I'm sure they're pretty good. Being able to make the same type of game over and over does lead to a level of expertise. And as Ken points out, ArcSys is going through a very experimental phase. We kind of knew this from the ArcSys showcase, where they presented a bunch of different stuff that wasn't fighting games. So the hope is that from this experimental phase, we get something new and interesting. Maybe a Overture-like game, or hell, maybe something leaning more into character action, if I'm lucky. Give me Devil May Cry, but it's Guilty Gear. Do it, ArcSys. I do think this is quite an interesting discussion piece, especially because BlazBlue is kind of ignored in this. ArcSys have shown that they're willing to branch out with things, but Entropy Effect probably had a large part in that. If you don't know, Entropy Effect sold over 1 million copies. It did really, really, really well, especially for a BlazBlue game. So I think the success of that might push ArcSys to experiment with their IPs more. Obviously, though, they are being cautious about it. They're using things like fucking Demon and Baby to test the waters, seemingly. So don't expect anything new. Give it a couple of years, probably. For now, fans are waiting on Lucy as the game's next character. It's been nearly a year since she was revealed at EVO 2024. But Miyuchi says that there's a good reason for that. Here's why Lucy is taking so long to create. According to the producer, the Guilty Gear team usually has everything it needs internally. Developers can simply walk up to the director, Daisuke Ishiwatari, and ask questions before returning to their desk. So things operate a lot smoothly. But in Lucy's case, the team has to go through CDPR first. We have to approach CD Projekt Red for their approval, he explained. I was in the front line of all feedback, contact, and talking with CDPR. Communicating with them and taking their feedback that I hear to the designers is something that I have to do every time. Before that, the team would just be able to go to Daisuke for their approval. But this time, everything comes to me, and I have to talk to them, so my workload goes up. And I'm making sure that I don't become the bottleneck of the development process. That's not all. Miyuchi also told us that the team members in charge of developing Lucy all played Cyberpunk 2077 to get a better feel of what it's like to be a netrunner in Night City, adding even more time to her development. Lucy's role as a netrunner also makes it challenging for their team to translate her abilities into physical hand-to-hand combat. But it's clear that the Guilty Gear team has put a ton of time and effort into the series' first ever guest character, whose trailer is slated to drop at EVO 2025, and that's the end of the article. They got them all to... What? I really hope they don't mean, like, a full playthrough. Oh, no, I guess it would make sense. Imagine being paid to play I say imagine being paid to play video games. The irony. I guess, yeah, I can't question the development process. If they want to make sure that Lucy is as accurate as possible, a good playthrough of Cyberpunk would definitely help. Still though, it's quite interesting. At the panel, Ken basically talked about how the CDPR lot were very quick to respond, whereas other companies they work with weren't as quick. This isn't talked about here, and I don't know if it's just the way that the article's edited, but it is an interesting omission about how Ken seemingly was the bottleneck between him and the rest of the producer. I guess even a day waiting on news is way more time than just going to Daisuke's desk and asking for approval. But still, it's an interesting omission. Also, I like the fact that they have said, yeah, we pass everything by Daisuke. Daisuke's vision is literally still a part of the game. If you want to change one of the characters, you have to pass it by Daisuke. You're not allowed not to. So yeah, that's everything in the article. Again, it's not a lot, but there's a little bit of insight into how the games are being developed, a little bit of insight into what ArcSys as a company is looking for, and most importantly, something for us to get a little bit excited about. I don't want to overhype everyone, I've learned my lesson from Lucy, but the idea that something big might be coming is really exciting, even if it is extremely vague on what it is. It gives us something to look forward to in the future, which is something that I've wanted for a long time. EVO's in like 2-3-ish weeks, so giving us something to be excited about before we go into that event is really going to help us get through that time. Listen, I used to get excited at PNGs for Venom. Being told that I'm supposed to expect something is enough to get me ready. So I'm very much looking forward to the announcements. And if you want to see them live as they happen, you should go and check out the Twitch. I'm streaming right now. We're going to be playing Insult EU, and then we're going to be dicking about in some other stuff after I've lost. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a good time. See you down below. But yep, that was the article. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you did. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye!